Islam, peace and hotep. Today is the 12th of November 2013, and we welcome everybody to Canaanland Moors class as usual every Tuesday on Ustream. If you're not able to see the Ustream, we upload everything to YouTube. Today's class is Domesticated Moors and the MSTA plantations. All right. So first stop today. First stop, the First World Order. So this is the first stop. The First World Order by Ali Melbey, and we go to page 197. So this is going out to everybody who's right in their mind, because it's real simple. Nabi Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali, Prophet Noble Jew Ali, the royal regent of the Empire Washita de Dogdamonia Moors, and the 5th Marquis de Maison Rouge, was the founder of the Old Canaanite Temple, 1913, the Holy Moabite Temple of Science of the World, 1916, the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, 1916, the Moorish Divine and National Movement of the World, 1916 to 1919, Moorish Science Temple of America, Moorish Temple of Science, 1925, 1926, and the Moorish Science Temple of America, 1928. Note, in 1929, just a year after the Vatican followed suit and formed the Papal State, being incorporated in Rome, Italy, was a family member of the Tunica Turner tribe. Prophet Noble Jew Ali's mother's maiden name was Turner. Her name was Eliza Turner. Before 1910, Timothy Drew, Prophet Noble Jew Ali / Nabi Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali, was a member of the Moorish Zionist Temple in Brooklyn, New York, founded and established in 1899 by Leon Richelieu. Moorish Zionist Temple, hence the origin of the name Moorish Science Temple of America. Phonetically, Zion sounds close to the word science. Prophet Noble Jew Ali in 1913 moved to Newark, New Jersey, and formed the Canaanite Temple. 1913 happened to have been the same year that the Federal Reserve Bank, the International Revenue Service, and the Birth Certificate Department were all formed. I'll read that again so you could understand how the so-called government, right, of the U.S. set up their whole system of raping Negro, black, colored people when Noble Jew Ali came into the fold with his divine plan for the ages, right? So again, Prophet Noble Jew Ali in 1913 moved to Newark, New Jersey, and formed the Canaanite Temple. 1913 happened to have been the same year that the Federal Reserve Bank, the Internal Revenue Service or the Inquisition Revenue Service, and the Birth Certificate Department were all formed, etc. These are not mere coincidences. No, co means two. These are more than two incidences. All Moorish groups are part of the Moorish Divine and National Movement. Therefore, we of the United Washita de Dogdamonia Moors do not debate on who is the rightful Khalifa, successor. There is no proof of anyone. It is all mere opinions and speculations. Whether it's Edward Mealy Eel, John Givens Ill, Charles Kirkman Bay, David Ford Ill, Master Fard, Muhammad, the Dingle L brothers, Timothy and Richardson, or etc. Humongous quotes right here. It does not matter. We are all Moors by birthright and nationality, not by organizations, societies, or tribal affiliation. We are all Moors, right? So when you hear them, because trust me, if you're innocent and young, fresh and green, and you didn't start, getting any color yet, you're just green on the tree, right? People are going to take advantage of you based on the lack of information that you might have about the Moorish divine and national movement and about Prophet Noble Drew Ali. So it's important for people who are coming into this information, as far as, forget sovereignty, right to travel and all that BS, right? People who are coming into this information about your nationality and your birthrights in the Americas need to forget Cujo and Taj and Alim and Raz and Anaida and Queen Valara and all these people who you're going to go get information from. Go to Noble Drew Ali and get his information and read that in order for you to get a perspective of what he brought. Because guarantee you, if you leave it up to people who's been in charge for the past 80, 90, 100 years in this movement, if you leave it up to some of those people, like Noble Drew Ali said, they're going to put you back in slavery. Hence, the name of the class, MSTA Plantations. Because that's a theme right now, right? Because people are waking up at such an alarming rate, the individuals, well, let me back up. People are waking up at such an alarming rate because of the work that Alim, Taj, Valara, Sister Raz, etc., Yafa Bey, whoever, right? All these Moors out there putting out information, right? That information has finally caught up to the people, right? Meaning that you could ask anybody right now that is either ignorant of this, Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish movement, or outside of the Americas. You can ask them, have you ever heard of Moors? And 80 to 90% of the people would tell you yes, they know about Moors, right? And they would say that with conviction. They're not, arming and humming about Moors. They know exactly what people are talking about when that title, that name is mentioned, right? So the individuals who have been putting all this information out, it's finally caught up to the people, because the information was out before the people were in the proper mind frame to understand what the information was. Like we were talking about before, a few classes ago, that driver's license fraud lecture that Taj Tweet Bay did, I had that sitting on it for 2-3 years before I looked at it. Why? Because as soon as I put it in, you get culture shock, because there's these guys wearing hats you never seen before, or you might have seen them on Masons or whatever like that, and they're speaking, it's like they're speaking a totally different language than now that we've studied, etc. Okay, now we could put in Taj. We watch Taj all day, just because. What else is there to really watch, right? We watch Aleem all day. We'll put in Moors who are active, and we'll put their stuff in, and we'll watch that forever, just because, right? They're speaking about something that is vibrating with our spirit. So being that the people who are studying have finally considered their situation, being Negro, black, colored, or whatever, and they start gravitating toward the Moorish movement. The problem that we have is individuals who haven't been doing anything for the past how many years. And because they haven't been doing anything, they're now put in a spot where it starts feeling uncomfortable, because you have so-called new Moors coming into the temple, right? You have new Moors coming into the temple, right? And they're coming into the temple on, holy day meeting and conventions and things of that nature, and they're asking the $1 million questions. Majority of time, the individuals who are asking the $1 million questions, they don't belong to that so-called temple that they went to. They're the word out there is that you should be a member of the temple, right? It's the word out there. So logically, people are going to go find a temple to see what this thing is about that they just found out about, right? Now we have to understand, understand that the Moorish Divine and National Movement, Moorish Holy Temple of Science, Moorish Science Temple of America, is the sole foundation for all Asiatics to be redeemed from this so-called mental slavery that we have. But the Moorish Science Temple, the Moorish Divine and National Movement, the Moorish Holy Temple of Science does not own Moorish nationality. And I could say that because I'm a Grand Sheikh of a temple. And I'm telling you that Moors don't own the Moorish Science Temple, or Moors don't own the nationality and birthrights of the people, right? Heads of temples. Temples don't own your nationality and birthrights. Moorish holy temples don't own your nationality and birthrights. Great Seal associations don't own your nationality and birthrights. It's yours. And if you get it out of your mind that it's not yours, and you start trying to figure out, okay, well, these guys over here, they said that they're the number one temple, so I guess I should get down with them because, since they're the number one temple, then, if I get down with them, then I'm going to get my stuff correct and what? BS. The only way you're going to get your stuff correct is if you study. Study. And then when you finish studying and you don't know what to do or whatever like that, what do I study next? You study yourself. Because the only way that you're going to know is by study. Man knows not by being told. Man knows by studying. Yeah, you get told some stuff, right? To give you some inspiration to go do the research. So when you go do the research and you find out that what Kudrow said is actually legit, that's supposed to kickstart you into taking this seriously, right? When you watch DVD, class, whatever, YouTube, whatever, right? Go to a lecture or anything like that, and you get inspired by the individual that's relaying the lesson to you. That was their purpose, to inspire you, to pick up from where you were inspired and then move on from there. If you're not doing that, you're doing yourself a disservice, because again, once you're green, once you're young, fresh and green, guarantee you there's somebody out there who is very game to put you in slavery, like very game. So recognize with what Brother Aleem's saying, right, that it doesn't matter which faction you belong to. The point is that we're all Moors, right? And again, don't get it twisted. If you agree with the statement that you're not Negro, black, colored, or Ethiopian, you're a Moor, it's in your best interest to seek out a true and legitimate Moorish Science Temple of America and go join that, because that is really your consulate. That is really your regency. No different than Mr. Chin has an embassy here, right? And because he's on foreign soil, he gets in trouble, he's running to the embassy. Same with every other nation in the world, right? So in comparison, the Moorish Science Temple of America is equivalent to how all these other nations out there have an embassy. The only difference with the Moorish Science Temple of America is that it's not foreign to America. It's an actual lawfully chartered organization set up in order to help you protect these birthrights that you found out about. So I don't want to hear Moors mad, right, that, you know, Kudro's bashing temples. I'm not bashing temples. I'm the head of a temple. I'm just letting people know, because I went through the Adab chamber. You can go talk to Divine Minister, National Divine Minister, Kenny Umar Bey. He'll tell you that he put me through the chambers. You can go talk to National Grand Sheikh Daweed Ali El. He'll tell you that he put through the chambers. You can go talk to Grand Governor Heru in Atlanta, right? You can go talk to Richard Neal Bey Jr., right? All these Moors were instrumental in me being where I am right now. And it's real weird that certain Moors all over the place, they want to, we'll say, bash Canaanland and bash Kudro, right? For example, one of the big, you know, violations of the prophets, whatever, that we did was we changed the prayer, right? Now, when we came into the information, we were already, you know, metaphysicians. You know, we were studying Phil Valentine, Bobby Hemmett, and all that, Wayne Chandler, all of that for years before we even got on this information. So realizing that, you know, when you study, you're going to find out things, and then when you find out things, it's going to change your perspective in your mind. We took it upon ourselves that when we found out that Allah is not masculine, that we altered or we amended the prayer to get the people to understand that when we say Allah, we're not Sunnis and Shiites talking about Allah. We're talking about a whole different perspective, because people were coming in to this, right, knowing that we were metaphysicians. Like I'm saying, we brought Bobby Hemmett here, we brought Rudra here, we brought Obashango here, we brought Booker T. Coleman here. We brought Aline Bay here. So we have a good foundation of metaphysical teachers, right? So people were expecting certain things. And when they get to the stage of, Allah, Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, immediately they have stuff going off in their head. Oh, you guys saying Allah, blah. So we altered it in order to show people that, well, when we say Allah, this is what we mean when we say Allah. We don't mean what Sunnis and Shiites in the mosque mean, right? And if you go back right now, because all these people, just yesterday, somebody left a comment on Facebook or whatever saying that Cujo's dirty because Canaanland Moors changed the prayer. Well, if you go back a year, 2 years, you see that we stopped doing that because the people got to that perspective in their mind to understand what the hell this is. So we didn't have to train them anymore. We could take off the training wheels and say Father of the universe, because now they know what we're talking about when we say Father of the universe, right? So we're gonna go through more Noble Drew Ali's information, right? We got the oral statements that we got to go through, right? And a couple other books that we're going to go through today so that the people can really take ownership of what Noble Drew Ali brought them. Because guarantee you, if you don't take ownership of it, people are going to steal your birthright. And not only are they going to steal your birthright, they're going to go do all types of madness with it and then blame you for it after. Right? After they go do their craziness. Right? Because we have to accept the reality of FBI papers and the Moorish Science Temple of America's involvement in FBI investigation. You got to accept it. Right? And if FBI was investigating, then that means there's infiltration automatically. Right? And like I'm saying, I'm head of a temple. Right? We've had meetings where undercover, plain clothes, they come in to the temple meeting. And they're sitting down in the temple meeting and they're taking in information. And not only are they taking in information, they're asking questions. Right? But one thing that keeps our position where it is the fact that we know what Noble Drew Ali brought. We know what Noble Drew Ali brought. We're not, we never came into this information or this school of thought or came into this nation under the guise of dirty Moors and then had to find out that 5 years later that, oh my gosh, these Moors that we've been in a temple of are dirty, and now we have to go back now 5 years and start over again. We came in immediately on the right perspective, right? And majority of that, right? Majority of the reason why we're on the perspective that we're on is because of Alim El Bey, because he's the first Moor to actually accept the invite. Because we were trying to get people here, and he's the only one that gave us a good enough for us to bring him here. Majority of people who wanted us to bring them here, they wanted, and we only had, right? So he came here and he laid it down on us the way that it's supposed to be laid down on us, right? Then we went to Chicago, met with Richard Neal Bey Jr., National Grand Sheikh Daweed, Kenny Umar Bey, and then from there, Grand Sheikh Nature, Raz, Taj, and everybody else who's affiliated, right? Now, Noble Drew Ali put out lots of writings, lots of literature that when you are searching for this information, it kind of appears that it's hard to get, right? Things are hard to come by. That's why Canaanland Moors put everything on the website, right? Everything's on the website. Everything Noble Drew Ali brought for the Moors is on the website, canaanlandmoors.webs.com. You print it out, cut and paste, do whatever it is that you want to do with it, because it's yours. That's why we put it out there, because it's yours. And there's some places that you go to, some websites you go to, they're not even talking about anything that Noble Drew Ali said. They're not talking about, all they're trying to do is try to get you to be down with their crew or their clique or their group, right? When this is nationhood and this is nation building. This is not organizational building or association building, right? That's why we have a national headwear, because this is national. That's why we have prayer, because this is national. That's why we have a divine constitution and bylaws, because this is national. That's why, the literature says proclaim your nationality, because this is national. So don't let anybody confuse you that the Moorish movement is solely religious and that there's not other spheres of activity that make this thing up called the Moorish Divine and National Movement. Everybody who is a so-called head in the Moorish Science Temple of America, Moorish Holy Temple of Science, Moorish Divine and National Movement, they know without a shadow of a doubt that this is national. They know that. And if they're speaking contrary to this being national and you being active and taking your place amongst the affairs of men, more than likely they were either taught by slave masters with fezzes on, or they're slave masters with fezzes on, right? Period. Grand Sheik Nature, right, another one of our master teachers, brought a perspective that made me really understand how much work we got to do with regard to this, right? We were having a conversation about the Moorish Science Temple of America, and why is the Moorish Science Temple of America, and why is the Moorish Science Temple of America, and how come whatever. And the statement that he made to me, which is like just ringing in my head or whatever. Not every building that says Moorish Science Temple of America on it means that it's a Moorish Science Temple of America. And I blew it off because I really didn't know what he was getting at until started bumping into all these dirty Moors who have a problem with Grand Sheik Nature, who have a problem with Taj Tariq Bay, who have a problem with Pleasant Bay, who have a problem with Alim Bay, who have a problem with all these Moors that are active and actually doing things to try to assist the nation. And then when I talk to all of them, they talk to each other. But then there's these group of Moors over here in this corner that, they don't have anything good to say about these Moors who's busting their asses, bags under their eyes and all that, from doing this for the people, not doing it for themselves, not doing it for, some claim of being the one that did this for the Moors or whatever. All they're doing is inspiring people, putting the information out there so people are inspired to go study. And when you go study, then you'll get down with this because you're doing the studying, right? Majority of Moorish Science Temples of America out there, right, majority of them, right, are legitimate, right? Their purpose is uplifting fallen humanity. They do the things necessary based on what they have to get the information out to the people, right? Teaching them about their prophet, teaching them about their nation, teaching them about, the customs of being Moorish American. And there's a sliver of Moorish science temples of America out there that are completely opposite of what they're supposed to be, right? Meaning they push templeism. So want to know what temple you belong to and who's your grand sheik and who's your whatever like that, right? When all that is irrelevant, right? It doesn't matter who grand sheik is and whatever. You got fez on, you got Moroccan flag behind you, right? You know about Circle 7, you know about 101 questionnaire. That's unity. You have a nationality, that's unity. We don't need to be united. Noble Drew Ali brought us the unity by giving us our nationality. But they want to take that idea that Noble Drew Ali presented to all the Moors, right? And they want to take it and they want to hold it over here in a corner and have you, you know, basically beg to get your nationality when it's yours. And if you study, you'll know that it's yours, because it's very obvious when you start studying. It's very obvious, especially when you start engaging other people that have a nationality. Everybody that knows that America, the jurisdiction of America, right, was originally founded and inhabited by dark-skinned people. Everybody knows that. It's not something they have to be taught, right? When we go through the literature, right? Now since we brought up Grand Sheik Nature, we're gonna go to his little booklet, right? Moorish Divine and National Movement, Forced to Make Changes, right? And this is in association with rvbaypublications.com, so you can get this there, right? And we start on page 1, because this is a little booklet. We'll see how much of this that we can go through, just so you can, you know, get the perspective of active Moors, because all Moors are active, not passive. If you're claiming, yes, I'm Moorish American or birthrights, nationality or whatever, and you're not doing anything with this, you might as well not claim anything, because this school of thought is to train you to take your place amongst the affairs of men, because we haven't. We've always wanted men to run our affairs, or women. We've never ran our own house. So what Noble Drew Ali did is that he gave you your nationality, and gave you your religion, and gave you the title to your vast estate, and told you, I brought you everything it takes to save a nation, now take it and save yourself. So if you're supposed to take this thing and save yourself, that means that it's yours to go save yourself with, right? No different than anything else out there that you would use to save yourself with. Once you pick it up in order to save yourself, it's now yours, especially if you use it to save yourself. And when this is for also too, let me get this out the way. When Moors do things to save themselves, so let's say for example, a Moor puts together some paperwork, right? And he goes to court and he submits this paperwork to the court, and the court says, you know what, we don't have any jurisdiction, this is dismissed, bye, get out of here, right? And a precedent is set that Moor put a certain paperwork into the court, and the paperwork assisted in him getting off whatever charges or whatever he was in court for. That paper now becomes jurisdiction of the Moorish nation, not that individual who wrote it. If a Moor uses paperwork in a court case and wins, that paper is no longer the jurisdiction of that individual who wrote it. That is now the nation's paperwork. So that individual has an obligation as a national to let all the other national peers know what he used to get off of that charge. Because majority of time, like I was speaking with a more earlier today, Brother Amen, and he was saying in Cali, everybody's driving with a suspended license because that's how much tickets they give out there. That everybody has a suspended license. In order for them to get around, they're exercising on a suspended license. Right? Being that the paper has assisted that national has an obligation to get the word out to all the other Moors, to let them know that, hey, this is what I used, and they can't put any fees or anything on it. As soon as they start attaching, well, the printing cost, and printing cost, because you could email the thing to whoever wants it. So there's no printing cost in 2013, right? Because they could print it for themselves. They don't need you to print anything for them, right? When you get papers from individuals, writs, whatever, anything, and they start attaching price tags to papers which belong to the nation, not them individually, know that that's Noble Drew Ali's prophecy coming through, that your brother is going to try to put you back in slavery. That's prophecy fulfilling right there, right? So there's a perspective that when you come into the Moorish movement, there's a perspective about this that you have to have. This isn't just happy-go-lucky like any other organization, group, or whatever that we were part of before, so we say that this is the same. Because Drew Ali even told us that this movement is not to be compared to any Back to Africa movement, right? There's no place with that mentality of back to Africa, slavery, etc. in this. In this, you're governing your own affairs, and you don't need Grand Sheik to do anything for you. You don't need Grand Governor. You don't need anybody. You do it for yourself, because this is your birthright. Again, the only reason that there's Grand Sheik, Grand Governor, or whatever, they're there to inspire you based on their so-called quote-unquote adept degree of knowledge. They're supposed to give you certain keys to make you go study, for you to stop and say, damn, he actually said that was right, and then I found 500 million other pages of information that goes right in line with what this individual that is my so-called head is saying. So yes, I would back him with my life, because what he said is for real. And why? Because as your trustee, that so-called head or whatever, as your trustee, he has an obligation to make sure you get what you're supposed to get. Make sure you go look up obligation so you know what their duty is when they stand in front of you and they tell you things, right? Whether you're involved in that temple or organization or not, they're still a trustee and they have an obligation. But what's happened? What's happened is that birthrights has become big business. Birthrights has become, or people pay their mortgages, which is a fraud. But they're supposed to be Moorish American. They're supposed to have a allodial title, and they're supposed to, go to the whoever asks for the deed of trust, and they're not supposed to be paying mortgage, right? They're not supposed to be not fighting tickets when you get them, right? But the people that are coming into the Moorish movement, because Like right now, as we're talking right now, right? People are coming into this at an alarming rate. This is not just, some hearsay thing like 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 15 years ago. People are really gravitating toward the Moorish movement because they realize that there's nothing else. Everything and everybody sold them out. And then they're going to come to the Moorish movement, and then they're going to meet some dirty Moor, and then he's going to sell them out. And then they're going to think that it's all over, and then they're going to go back to Christianity or whatever it is, that when they shouldn't even been listening to that group. They should have went and studied the Prophet. If they studied the Prophet, they would have seen that guy coming from a mile away that he's trying to game them. Right? So it's about perspective. Moorish Divine and National Movement, forced to make changes, by Grand Sheikh Nature El Bey and Grand Sheikh Taj Tariq Bey. Greetings to all Moors of North America. Right? Greetings to all Moors. Not greetings to temple members and, these guys over here and these guys in this club. Greetings to all Moors. That's how active Moors talk. Because we understand that this is unity. Right? We understand that this is a nation. I rise and give honor to the Spirit of Allah and to His holy prophets through His last divine prophet in these days, Prophet Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali, Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Words from the holy prophet Noble Drew Ali. I have suffered much and severely in the past from a misunderstanding of what the movement was dedicated to. Now man himself is mind, and mind is here to gain perfection by experience. Right? Man is here to gain perfection by experience. Now man himself is mind, and mind is here to gain perfection by experience. So when you have a Moor that went to court and used the writ and it worked and he got his case dismissed, what you have to do is you have to study what that Moor presented to that so-called administrative jurisdiction. You not just take the paper because it worked. Because mind is here to gain perfection by experience. So that means if that individual got a win, don't think that you're just going to put that paper in and get a win. Because that's not you experiencing. That's you copying. And copying is cheating. And cheating means you're not going to the next grade. Spiritual or physical. So no cheating. Study. Even as a prophet, he too had to learn by experience, thereby making the statement, we take Islam on in degrees. When one is studying or viewing the Moorish Divine and National Movement, one must be cognizant of the founders' words and instructions. Not conscious, be cognizant of the founders' words and instructions. And the only way you're going to do that is if you study the Prophet. And the only way you can study the Prophet is if you go to the temple and get the literature that you need. But as we know, some of these so-called places that have buildings and whatever like that, and they have a sign saying Moorish Science Temple of America, they're not that. They've never been that. It's just a sign. Just like we talk about, it just says Federal Express. It doesn't mean that they're government because it says federal. And if you assume that they're government because it says federal, then get ready to get gamed. If you assume that that's a Moorish Science Temple of America because there's guys outside standing there with fezzes or whatever, and then you go in there and they got, sunshine girls and, girls with a leg over their head, pictures on the wall or whatever, you already know that that's not no Moorish Science Temple of America. Get the hell out and go find another one. Don't be going in there try to reform these demons. because they'll eat you, cut you up and eat you, and spit you out and then give you to their boy to go eat too. That's how dirty these people are. Remember, we put it out there already. $3,500 for birthrights. Some of these people are charging innocent people who are just coming into this sincere, looking to be free. $3,500, right? And Moore had the $3,500 ready to go give it, right? I know where all members are at along the way. This statement is insinuating the active and consciousness ascension levels of members according to their knowledge, conscious levels, who may have different understandings on what the organic, right, not the GMO, organic aims and objective constitutes the Moorish divine and national movement. Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali mentions that a wise man humbles himself and recognizes his own imperfections, never forgetting that there are multitudes of lessons man must learn upon the plane of soul, and man is sure to find himself where he can solve his problems best. This is also why all Moorish science temples were given general laws and divine instructions, which would and could be understood and interpreted by all members regardless of their different degrees of understanding. Right? Regardless of their different degrees of understanding. These laws were and are to govern the domestic affairs of the Moorish movement in general, because the Moorish divine and national movement is a resurgence of the direct descendants of an ancient Drural society, which has a Rotarian complexion. It has a unique body politic. Thusly, the study and relearning of hidden and suppressed history, law, and moral and ethical principles of government are a given fact. There will naturally be members and citizens who would be adept in such areas, and those who would not be. These natural dynamics and variations of human development among Moors, like any other body of natural peoples involving organized group improvements, vary according to instructors, teachers, and logistical supports. The natural dynamics and variations of human development among Moors, like any other body of natural peoples involving organized group improvements, vary according to instructors, teachers, and logistics. Right? So, as Moors develop, right, Moors are supposed to be developing based on the instructions and the teachers. Being that Noble Drew Ali knew that all these Moors were going to sell him out because he is a prophet, right? He told you, make sure you study. Study, study, study. Right? He told you to study. So that way you don't have to rely on the instructor and the teacher, because majority of them sold out. He wouldn't tell you go study and study yourself if it was about sit in front of an instructor. Right? He wouldn't tell you to go study if the perspective is for you to be like, school and sit in front of somebody and them brainwash you. Right? These seemingly conflicting social conditions would be and could be expected. However, it was and is the duty of all Moorish Americans to study and to change the people's literature in order to change the economic, political, spiritual, and social conditions of the people. Within the body politic of the Moorish Science Temple of America, the Grand Sheikh and Chairman are empowered to make law and enforce law, and are divinely sanctioned with the integrity of the Moorish movement in place and in pursuance to the divine constitution and bylaws as prescribed by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali has a dual function of governmental authority. The bylaws thus confirms officials in a capacity being legislative and executive, just as the United States Congress in Article 1 of the United States of the Constitutional Republic. This gives both titles, Grand Sheikh and Chairman, similar functions at law for two different body politics according to their domestic constitution. So it becomes evident that a governor of a Moorish science temple holds an important governmental office with constitutional limitations of power, which allows said governor, Bey, to act in there as delegated official capacity. Right? Trustee, the person appointed or required by law to execute a trust, one in whom an estate, interest, or power is vested under an express or implied agreement to administer or exercise it for the benefit or to the use of another. Right? So these individuals who are acting in their delegated official capacity, like I said before, are trustees. And if they're a trustee, then that means they cannot benefit. This is why when we had the issue with this Moor out here, Cosmos Ether El Bey, and he's putting statements out there and he's putting things out there that Grand Sheikh is charging people for, he's demanding people pay dues, and you know, he works for the government and all this type of stuff. It's complete, absolute fraud, because Grand Sheikh Kudro Adwa El is not even obligated to pay dues as a head of a temple. This is how you know the clean from the dirty. Grand Sheikh Kudro El is not obligated to pay dues. It's in the administrative functions. The heads don't pay dues, right? But there's a wall full of DVDs and books that I paid for to get on those walls. That's not people's dues that pay for that. That's Kudro Adwa El's own finance pays for that. Right? Why? Because I can't benefit off these people's birthright. It's an international violation for a national to be a trustee and benefit off beneficiaries' birthrights. It's something that can't be done. And if it is done, that falls on that so-called head. So you people could vouch for Kudro out there. I'm gonna give you my number, you call me. You need a writ, I'll email it to you, or I'll direct you to who to go to. But I don't take fiat for doing this. I don't accept any emoluments for this. Right? I do this because I'm Moorish American. This is nationhood. And Drew Ali said, if you don't give me your money, I'm going to get it anyways. So why am I going to go put it somewhere here for him to get it anyways when I can just give it to him and just be done with it? Because I don't know how he's going to go about getting it. Right? He's working from the soul plane. Who knows how he's going to come get the fiat if I don't give it up? But I know he's coming to get it. So I might as well do it properly and just give it up from the beginning. And, you know, go get, if I go get loan or whatever like that, use this fake pseudo me to go get that stuff so Drew Ali could get whatever he needs in order to make this move. Right? So remember, keep in mind, and make sure that you're very clear about this, that the heads of the Moorish Divine and National Movement are trustees. They're trustees. And their job as trustees is not to benefit. Because if they benefit, then that means they're a beneficiary. And if they're a beneficiary, then that means they're not a trustee. And if they're not a trustee, why are you calling them Grand Sheikh and Grand Governor or whatever when they're a beneficiary? That means you're in violation now, because you're sitting there calling this guy Grand Sheikh, Grand Governor, when he's raping you. And you're letting him rape you because you give him that power of, oh yeah, Grand Sheikh, Islam, good to meet you, or whatever like that, when he's dirty. And we already know that as far as traders go and people who aren't doing what they're supposed to do, we can't tolerate it. Because look where we are in 2013 as quote-unquote Moors. Moors who are conscious. Look around us. Right? Where's all the Moorish stuff at that they used to have back then? Because remember, Noble Drew Ali had his own, say, medicines for the Moors. That had to be manufactured, and that wasn't being manufactured in no back room. If it has bottles and if it has, labels and sealed stuff, boxes and stuff like that, that's manufacturing, right? Remember, Noble Drew Ali said that Marcus Garvey is the forerunner of the Moorish movement. What was Marcus Garvey doing? Marcus Garvey was bringing back the Black Star Line so we can be able to travel and do trade without having to go to the European for anything, because we have our own stuff. That's business. That's commerce. Right? Remember, Moorish Science Temple of America is a school. That's a school. So all those temples that were around during the Prophet's time, those were all learning institutions. They weren't temples, Friday, Holy Day service, and that's it. There's something was going on there every single day of the week. Because it's a learning institution. Right? The Prophet's message to America states, "We organized as the Moorish Temple of Science in the year 1925 and were legally incorporated as a civic organization, a national organization with a Rotarian complexion as it relates to branch temples. This is our religious freedom as American citizens under the laws of one of the greatest documents of all time, the American Constitution." Our Prophet Noble Drew Ali taught that one must be cognizant that words have several different meanings. The fact, however, is well known that Noble Drew Ali commanded the Moors, citizens, members to study. He consistently taught and encouraged Moors to get a good education. Those who study and analyze what they have studied, know and understand that religion also means law, order, and governmental principles. So the changing of the name of Moorish Holy Temple of Science to the Moorish Science Temple of America to a religious organization does not and did not change the nature, aims, and purpose of the Moorish Divine and National Movement. So even if we look at this as some religious temple where we're gonna go and do religious stuff, religion implies law, order, and governmental principles, right? Law, order, and governmental principles. This is why the Vatican could be a state. The Vatican, which is controlled by religion, could be a state. because religion is law, order, and governmental principles. Right? This is why Buddhists could go to the monastery and be Shaolin monks and defend their nation, because religion is law, order, and governmental principles. Everybody knows this except our people. And Noble Drew Ali came since 1913 to teach these things to our people. And then you have people who are supposed to be trustees telling people that that's not what it is. Religion means, go pray to Noble Drew Ali, go sing Noble Drew Ali hymns or whatever. And it's a documented fact that those so-called Moorish science temples are out there, right? Where they pray. And they don't do anything to do with civics. And when they get a ticket, they go pay it. And if IRS comes to them and tells them they owe taxes, they go pay it. When they're Moorish American. And how are you Moorish American and you're going to go pay some foreigner in your own land? And you're not challenging them on anything? And you have fez on, and you have a temple, and you have a grand sheik, grand governor, or whatever like that, that's supposed to be the heads of this temple that you belong to, where you're praying, and that's all you do, pray. Nationality, as a pertinent and vital issue, was not deleted from the Moorish movement, as some persons of varying opinions have implied. Moors still have a responsibility to study those things necessary to become better citizens. Therefore, the study of civics was and is a must. Doesn't it stand to reason why the Prophet originally established the Moorish movement as civic in the first place? Keep in mind that unlike the Moorish science temples, most religious organizations do not carry governmental titles. Keep in mind, unlike the Moorish science temples, most religious organizations do not carry governmental titles. As a reference point for Moors, Master Masons, Eastern Stars, scholars, neophytes, royal adepts, amanuensis masters, the erudite of jurisprudence, etc. Research who the original Picts, Mori, Dubs, Moros, and Danes of Europe really were. These were the ancient nobles of England, Ireland, and Scotland. All of these names are relating to the Moors. The impacting consanguine facts about Moorish history and the true legacy of jurisprudence have long been known by the scholars of the world. However, due to the Inquisition and the colonization of the Western Hemisphere, this history has been and is suppressed. The Prophet has spoken. All governors and grand sheiks and head officials that guide any body of Moors of any temple of the Moorish Science Temple of America, he or she must be of good moral standard and a heart of love, and their works must be of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. They are to imitate the Prophet in speech and in teaching in any said temple, that they must not speak rash words nor any profane language in the mildest form to any other individual, because a leader without influence of good works cannot be a leader. About deception and misrepresentation. Honest historians, instructors, scholars, and Moorish Americans in general know that early on within the Moorish movement, quasi-government agents feigned an allegiance to the movement for purposes of subversion. Such pseudo-members have historically infiltrated the Moorish movement with the intentions of trying to disqualify Noble Drew Ali and the movement. Some of those same personality types and characters are still active in these days, claiming that Noble Drew Ali did not direct the Moors to help him in his mission to bring our people back into the constitutional fold of government. These are the same agents which Central and Federal have traditionally lied about and negatively criticized those who are active and encouraging Moors to take their place among the affairs of men. Many of the constitutionally active Moors have been active members of the Great Seal National Association of Moorish Affairs. Now, one thing that's a real benefit to active Moors being active, right? And given this nationality and birthright demonstration back to the people. One of the real admirable things that has continued to inspire me to talk how I talk and do what I do, right? Regardless of what people say, regardless of what they say I violated, Noble Drew Ali, whatever, right? One thing is the individuals who are coming into the movement who recognize these things, these discrepancies that we're talking about. Moors who go to temples out of, quote unquote, unity, because they're new and they just want to, see this Moorish movement or whatever. And they go sit there and they realize that, damn, Kudro's right what he's talking about. You know, Kudro, man, I went to this temple and blah, 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 blah. List goes on about the craziness that these agents be doing up in some of these places that they call Moorish Science Temple. That's not really that, because they're not doing anything that Noble Drew Ali said, right? So honors to the Moors out there who have, and whether it's me or Aleem or whatever, a seer, whoever that you learn from, and you recognize that, there's a lot of backbiting Moors out there who are the heads, and as soon as you talk with them, their tone, their demeanor would let you know where they stand with regard to some of the Moors that all of us study under and consider quote unquote master teachers, which there's few. There's not no hundreds of Moors out there that are the master teachers. There's very select few Moors out there who are considered, amongst the nation as, yeah, that man there, we could put him on the head. That sister right there, we can make her a head. For the nation, not for this little group crap that these guys been pushing for the past 100 years, right? We're talking about individuals who inspire people through the books that they write, the DVDs that they do. They inspire people to change their condition. They inspire people to stop for a second and think about, what does this thing called being a Moor or Moorish nationality or Moorish American or Noble Drew Ali, what is this thing about? And they actually stop and go and do further research in it, right? Continue to do that. All the Moors out there who are coming into this, make sure that you continue to study. At the same time, make sure that you go into some of these temples, even if they're doing dirty stuff, right? Like the Moors in Tennessee told me they went to go visit some dirty Moors and they sat there for 7 hours just because we're here, so we might as well get what we could get. And if we don't get anything, then so be it. Next temple down the street, go sit there and see what we could get. And if you don't get anything, leave those clowns and then go to that next temple over there, go sit down with them and build with them. Alright? And as you go through, you realize who's real, who's talking, just flapping, who has intentions to help, who doesn't have intentions to help. It becomes very clear once you start going around, and you know what I mean, because it's like, well, like we were saying, when we first came into this, right? Put it out there always. Put it out there again. Moors, I got requests for $50 for a Holy Quran from some Moors. 50 notes for a Holy Quran. 50 notes. Right? Nationality card. You buy that. Just buy your nationality card. Just pay, whatever, and then we'll give you a nationality card. None of them having newspapers. Noble Drew Ali said, yeah, the press is our greatest weapon, and then all these Moors don't have newspapers. And there's maybe 6 Moorish science temples out there that have a newspaper. Which is, if the press is our greatest weapon, right? Like they have Moors telling Moors, yeah, well, go file whatever in the county because, the county is a jurisdiction. The county's been dissolved since 1933. So you don't go file nothing in the county. But if you had your own paper, just like how the so-called government, when they're going to go dig and when they're going to go cut down or whatever, they put a notice in the paper letting everybody know that this is what's going to go down. Same thing's supposed to be going on with the Moors. We're supposed to have our own newspaper. Any claims that anybody got, any writs, whatever, goes in the newspaper. Among other things like classes and advertisements for different businesses or whatever, right? Other planted agents and pseudo-members have conspired to rob and to misappropriate the finances and thus disrupt the cohesive operations of the movement. Other planted agents. So we're not talking about FBI agents. We're talking about other agents and pseudo-members. Members who came in talking like they want to be down with Moorish Science Temple, but they have European Jesus on their wall at home. Right? And they have 501c3 benefits that they're getting from the foreigner. Other planted agents and pseudo-members have conspired to rob, and misappropriate the finances, right? Like we were talking about last week, putting all this money to get a bus, and 10 years goes by and there's still no bus, but people still giving money to a bus fund or emergency fund or whatever. That's not going to anything. That's called misappropriation of funds. Because don't forget, they don't tell people what they do with the money. Like in Canaanland, we have a treasurer. So you want to know what's going on with the money? Go talk to the treasurer. Don't come here and talk to Grand Sheik. What's Grand Sheik doing with the money? I'm paying $200 dues a month, and I don't even have to. Literally, I don't have to. But my 2 bills goes in the pot every month, whether it's through books, DVDs, making orders, paying for people to do Skype lectures and all this type of stuff. Majority of stuff comes out pocket. Not because we can't use the funds that the people are giving in dues, but there's bigger stuff to do with that finance, right? Whenever such culprits make references or write about Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish movement, most will maliciously present false concepts, distort the aims of the movement, or write misrepresentative information. Thusly, anyone who commands the enforcement of the Constitution in harmony with Noble Drew Ali for the social and political governance of the United States of America would be and can expect it to be negatively portrayed by such agents or entities operating for the colorable corporate state and federal usurpers. Anyone who commands the enforcement of the Constitution in harmony with Noble Drew Ali for the social and political governance of the United States of America would be and can expect to be. So this is for Moors who are coming into this. When we say that this is a battle when you come into this, we're not talking about only battling this foreigner that's usurping your birthright. We're also talking about battling these Moors who assume, they assume that the new people don't study. Even though Noble Drew Ali prophesies that new Moors are going to come with their eyes wide open, which means that they've been studying. And the only thing that they're missing is Moorish science or jurisprudence. It's the only thing that they're missing. They have all the keys, all the other keys, right? Chakra keys, universal law keys, right? Mudra keys, sigil keys, occult keys, ritual keys, any and everything. Holistic health keys, organic food, everything. Only thing we're lacking is that nobody ever drew our attention to law, right? Nobody drew our attention to law. So these people who support Noble Drew Ali and enforce the Constitution in harmony with Noble Drew Ali would be and can be expected to be negatively portrayed, right? So as soon as you hear people bashing Kudrow, know that they're probably an agent, because Kudrow will tell you, I ain't done nothing to nobody, right? Everybody who crossed my path with regard to Moorish movement, everybody who crossed my path, right, got dealt with fairly. And some of those people took advantage of, the kindness or whatever, think that it's weakness, and think that, the love instead of hate, and Kudrow turned the other cheek or whatever. It doesn't really work like that, because that's not how I was brought up, right? That's not the perspective. That Moore is gonna try to assassinate you or whatever. Moore is gonna try to slander your character. Moore is gonna try to, sell you a Holy Quran for 50 notes, and you just accept that out of unity. Well, because Noble Drew Ali said love instead of hate. I'm gonna let that slide because that's my brother. don't even go there, huh? Because trust me, traders get what they're supposed to get. Whether they get it from the spiritual or whether they get it on the physical, they're gonna get what they're supposed to get, guaranteed. There's no questions asked, and you don't want to be next to those people when they get what they're gonna get. So stop playing games and playing friend with these agents who do not care about your anything. All they want to do is make sure you put money in the pot. If you don't put money in the pot, they want to make sure that you pump them up and put them on the pedestal so they can, start doing lectures and debates and, get some fiat doing, birthright business, when birthrights ain't no business, right? For people to even be fronting that they're even doing that, right? However, we active Moors are diligent and recognize that there has been and there will be opposition. The birthrights, land, and resources of the Moors are at stake. Our offspring and families are at stake. Moors must never forget that our land has been colonized and that our people have been falsely branded as Negroes, blacks, and colored folks, etc. We must go back to that state of mind of our ancient foremothers and fathers and study our ancient and divine principles of government. Allah is leading on and victory is assured. The Moabites, Moors, are the founders of civilization, the founders of religion, and the original organic truth systems for the supports of religion. Moors are founders of the study of the laws of nature and the philosophies, and the founders of civil principles of government. To this day, these and other civilization orienting systems still govern the universe. We have no doubt that our active position commanding the enforcement of the Constitution for this republic is correct and on point. The Constitution was adopted from the ancient laws of those same founders of civilization, and the law, ancient, will have to be enforced in order to save the nation. Alright, and that was from Moorish Divine and National Movement, Forced to Make Changes, by Grand Sheikh Nature al-Bey, Grand Sheikh Taj Tariq Bey. Because when the Moors start realizing that there's no such thing as schism, there's no such thing as, infighting amongst the Moors. People talk about infighting and whatever, and how come there's so much separation, whatever. Just go back to what Grand Sheikh Nature said. Not everybody who says that they're Moorish Science Temple, Moorish Divine and National Movement, Noble Drew Ali, Fezes, Moroccan flag are that. No difference than FedEx. That you're not going to say FedEx is government because they use the term federal. It's by the works, and deeds of these people that is going to allow you to know whether they're on the side of the Prophet or whether they're in front of the Prophet trying to hide him from you. Right? Next up, addressing misunderstandings of purpose concerning Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali, Noble Drew Ali, the Moorish Divine and National Movement. And again, go to rvbaypublications.com and you can get all this so you're clear. A lot of people aren't clear about the Moorish movement, and the reason why they're not clear is because they're sitting there trying to learn from some agent whose name's probably in the FBI papers, and they want to pretend that, well, we're going to unite, so we just have to talk to these people, out of unity. There ain't no unity with dirty Moors. Or 100 years will go by and we'll be right here. Well, not we, but offspring, right? Would be right here talking the same stuff that we're talking right now, because nobody learned. Everybody wanted to be friends with dirty Moors, right? You can't be friends with traitors and expect to uplift your nation. It's impossible. They're infiltrators. They're subversives. Their job is to make sure that we don't make it, because they're making it is getting fiat. That's what they're making it is. Their being free is having money in a bank account. Not even money, having fiat in a bank account. That's their getting free. Right? Active Moors getting free is knowing the truth about your nationality and birthrights is getting free. And if they're not pushing that ideal to you, nationality and birthrights, and you understanding what your nationality and birthrights are, know for a fact that they're gaming you. This is not an assumption, right? That's why we put out 3,500 for nationality, so people could see how serious it is out there. We're not just putting out to sound cool, sound like we know something. That was a innocent brother, young Moor, just coming into the movement, and some opportunists told him 3,500 for nationality papers that you print out for $5. 3,500, and that's just one story. We get calls from all over the place about people with all types of different experiences. Then Moors calling us, telling that Moors pulling pistols on them and stuff like that. That's how dirty some of these people are. Imagine you go to a temple and you're sitting there dealing with the head of the temple, and they're pulling out pistols, talking about how gangster they are, and they pay dues and all this type of stuff. Do you expect people to be really down with that? Somebody who's coming in, who doesn't know anything, and they go in a temple, man pulls out a pistol. He doesn't even have to say anything. They're out the door. And they probably never, ever take anything from a Moor ever again. They'll abandon the shit completely. Just because. This dirty Moor. Right? And keep in mind that, we always tell people, if you're coming into this information, it would be wise for you to use Grand Sheikh Nature, Brother Abdullah El-Bey, or Brother Abdullah Talib Mosier, Moorish civilletter.net, RV Bay Publications, Canaanland Moors, Alim Bay, whoever it is that you see us show. If we show their book or we show their pamphlet or whatever, you better stick to those people so you can get your perspective clear. Because majority of these individuals who are trying to usurp, or who are trying to, get the Moors not to be down with their birthright, majority of them, they don't even care whether you get down with this or not. Their job is to push you so far away from this that it'll take you 100 years to get yourself back on track how far they pushed you off, right? How do they do this? Questionable alterations. This is page 20. Moors, particularly those who are active, that's right. So you see what the theme is. When you talk with certain Moors, that term comes up all the time. Active. They don't just say Moors. Active. Most particularly, those who are active, studious, and protective of the Prophet and the movement should always operate with a keen eye against subversion. Take note of an example of important and often overlooked literary modifications which are clearly made at least 3 times within the Moorish American Divine Constitution and bylaws. Adepts, sheiks, PhDs, and those among us who study jurisprudence know that telic and altered legal phrases have been made in Act 4, Act 6, and Act 7. These questionable alterations or deliberated misprints actually alter the divine constitution's original lawful nature, presentment, meaning, and purpose. Anyone who knows law would immediately recognize that. And when I say this, keep in mind Act 1 of the additional laws for Moorish Americans. It reads, Grand Sheiks and governors and heads of all temples, all businesses, each said temple must be approved by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali before acting upon by any members. Let it be finance, property, or any line of life that will cause the members to sacrifice finance, that will cause the support of any group of members, Any former officer that violates these laws is subject to be removed from his office under a heavy restriction, etc., by the Prophet or the Grand Sheikh. Be ever cognizant that in accord with the nationally structured governmental order of the Moorish Holy Temples of Science, and as expressed in chapter 29 of the Holy Quran, Circle 7, that these high officers of the temples were put in place to make law, and therefore their positions and titles by their very nature requires them to know law. Compare the following examples of the said alterations. Comparative texts from the Divine Constitution and Bylaws. Moorish Holy Temple of Science, pre-1928, Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of government, because by being Moorish American, you are part and parcel of the government and must live life accordingly. Moorish Science Temple of America, post 1928, Act 4. All members must preserve these holy and divine laws, and all members must obey the laws of the government, because by being a Moorish American, you are part and partial of the government and must live the life accordingly. Examine the comparative notations with the factual considerations that pre is a linguistic prefix that means prior to and in front of. On the other hand, post is a linguistic prefix that means behind and after, as distinguished from that which is first or original, or from that which occurred or existed originally, and so the eyes of the vanguards are drawn to attention. The original text of the Divine Constitution and Bylaws of the Moorish Holy Temple of Science clearly states the following legal term: part and parcel. The later altered text of the Divine Constitution and Bylaws of the Moorish Science Temple of America reads as follows, within the same numerical sections: part and partial. Part of speech and definition. The word parcel is a noun and means a distinct part, portion, or section, as in an estate, or a portion of land, etc., a quantity of any group of persons or things put together, a bundle, etc. Part of speech and definition. The word partial is an adjective that means pertaining to or alluding to, affecting a part, blasted or prejudiced in favor of a person, a group, a side, etc., as in a controversy. The fact remains that a constitution is a primordial function in instrument of law. Have you ever heard about, or have you ever seen, read about, or noticed any Moorish Americans who have held positions of authority in the movement take action or speak about this important and possibly neutralizing abridgment issue of law concerning these alterations? Is there any record of someone showing authoritative concern for correcting, analyzing, or discussing the circumstances upon which these obviously serious and weighty, yet limited or unaddressed changes were made in the Constitution and Bylaws? I place this issue before the active natural people of the Moorish nation in defense of the Prophet and the movement. This is serious because the records show that Noble Drew Ali was being strategically pressured, slandered, and countered by way of covert government operations. Much of this foul play also came through infiltrating operatives from within the movement. Remember that when these people attack the Prophet and the Moorish movement, they are attacking you. When these people attack the Prophet and the movement, they are attacking you. Your progress, your nation, and your rightful inheritance. Noble Drew Ali rebutted such deviant acts by commanding the loyal and faithful Moors to study, 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 and to increase their support to himself and the movement. He also said, amongst other important things, "Be careful, Moors, some of your own people wearing turbans and fezzes will try to put you back in slavery." Controversy makes people very uncomfortable, yet sometimes it is unavoidable. This is due to the fact that just because a cause may be noble in its nature, that does not mean that the people gathered around that cause always chose to meet the high grade of its honor. The many controversial issues that have evolved around or within the movement are related to some of the undermining works or acts instituted against Moorish Americans' economic and political progress in North America. These knotty questions should be of frontline interest to all active Moors. The deviance from law, the acts made against noble principles initiated by and or through the subversives amongst the Moors have not been limited only to the noted foregoing alterations. However, I feel the above displayed examples are well worth mentioning for the purpose of reminding us to stay alert, and as a warning for those who are becoming conscious of the Moorish nationality and birthrights issue in a broader context. We must remain focused on the nature of the cause and be diligent in all our Moorish affairs. Right? We must be diligent in all our Moorish affairs. Right? Newly awakened Moors. We put this out there already, but people say there's lots of videos and 2 hours long. You can't sit through all of that. Okay, so we'll break it down again. Many newly awakened Moors and some already conscious Moors may from time to time inadvertently find themselves placed amongst unwelcoming, exploitative, opportunistic, or cliquish Moors. Keep in mind, the negative conditions and dead culture of servitude, mental slavery, from which we all have come, who have suffered under European colonial psychological engineering and suppression. These untoward and discomforting acts are not the norm of true Science Temple culture. They are some uncultured Moors who have not applied some of the ethical principles taught by Noble Drew Ali. They have carried with them or brought the old black codes practices from their servitude indoctrinations into the Moorish movement with them. Some have not yet purged themselves of those behaviors. Be aware that such acts or practices are not the true teachings or quote-unquote programs of the Moorish temples as presented to the Moors by the Prophet. Unity, love, tolerance, and progress are primal aspects of the mission and are primal to the culture of the Moorish movement. This is why ethical instructions are included as part of instructions in the divine and national orientations, as they are often given in Sunday school commentaries. The above stated moral principles also apply to any of the Europeans who have come among the Moors. Some Europeans may oftentimes pretend not to know the true and massive illustrious invocations, connections, and influences made by the Moors, our forefathers, to the founding and initiating of the great Renaissance of Europe during the 14th, 15th, and 16th centuries. Study it for yourself. Page 49. Senator Henry Berry's sorcery dictum, made during the Andrew Jackson administration, 1832 AD. Senator Henry Berry, B-E-R-R-Y. Enslaved Moors were branded Negro, black, colored, etc. and were artificially and politically held outside of the constitutional fold of government. This was done by way of the unclean hands of occupational European slaveholders and social engineers. Most descendant European politicians were and are dedicated crusaders and inquisitionists, whether operating in secret or in the open. An example and proof of the long-lived European cultivated birthrights theft conspiracy is the use of organizational government, color of office, and color of authority to perpetrate and maintain mental darkness among the defeated and enslaved Moors. The following was captured within part of a speech made in an occupational U.S. Congress in the year 1832. A commonly heard and crusader-inspired speech was delivered to the Virginia House of Delegates by a European politician named Senator Henry Barry in the year 1832 AD. An excerpt of Senator Barry's address was as follows. Senator Henry Barry, in the year 1832, said to the Virginia House of Delegates, "We have, as far as possible, closed every avenue by which the light may enter the slave's mind. If we could extinguish their capacity to see the light, our work would be complete. They would be then on the level of the beast of the field, and we would be safe." The new light of knowledge is needed to counter the negating effects of misunderstanding, unjustified divisions, and foul misrepresentations caused by the great conspiracy of lies initiated to undermine Noble Drew Ali and the Moorish movement's national humanitarian cause. Light must also be shed on the silence surrounding persons, concerns involving the sellout period of negative acts affecting the Moorish Science Temple of America and the Moorish movement in general, 1927 to 1934. Moorish scientists, Grand Sheiks, adepts, Great Seal scholars, Master Masons, Eastern Stars, etc. are advised to take note that the constitutionally sanctioned Congress of the United States of America held the 38th session on a Saturday. Question: under what conditions does the United States Congress meet on a Saturday? Why did they meet on a weekend? However, they did meet on a Saturday, and Article 13 was the product of the official section and session. And we're talking about Article 13 inclusive of the 20 sections. So you just do your research on that. So we go to 846. So we're going to read some of the oral statements of Noble Drew Ali, right? And this is something, again, it's on Canaanland Moors website. It's there for everybody to go read, research. You know, you can use everything that Noble Drew Ali brought to you as an encyclopedia, because he told the Moors to study. And a lot of Moors come into this and they think they know, right? But if I bring up brother Amen again, right? Brother said that I live in the Black's Law Dictionary. I live in that because I'm always finding out stuff that I don't know. So it's important that you have your dictionaries, etc. Don't listen to SETI and these idiots talking about that's white man's language and white man's books and all that, right? We're the white man that taught the European. So anything that he has, know that we have something to do with whatever it is that he has. Whether it's a cult and they're going to the coffin, boinking each other or whatever like that, whether they say that, you know, they're Baphomet and they're, you know, doing the right Baphomet poses and stuff like that. Know that everything that European has, they got it from us. How we know that? Because the Renaissance. You go study the Renaissance, you find out that Europeans had nothing, zero. The kings and queens or whatever of Europe were illiterate. They couldn't even speak language, and they were kings and queens of something, and they were illiterate, right? And then you get in our history or whatever, and then they're, you know, saying that we're illiterate and they make fun of us and whatever, when they were kings and queens that were illiterate when we were ruling, right? So the Renaissance. So use Noble Drew Ali as a reference point. Again, Alim El Bey, dralimlbey.com. You go there under the part that says Noble Drew Ali, and then when you go there, there's going to be names and names of all these different people that Noble Drew Ali studied under or whatever. Go research those people. Moorish Civil Letter.net. Moorish Civil Letter, CIVILETTER.net. The connection between Moors and Masons. You need to go on that website and go study everything that Brother Abdullah has on his website. Of course, rvbaypublications.com. Right? We put it out there that if people are real serious about studying or whatever, you want to know the truth about your nationality and birthrights, you're going to go to RV Bay Publications and you're going to stay there. And you're not going to move. When I say stay there, I mean you're going to stay there. You're going to read, and then you read and you're going to read, and when you feel tired and you don't want to do this anymore, then you shut that down and then you go to something else. Don't be doing the keep this open, oh well, I heard something or read something, so I'm just going to go research it quick fast and see what, because that's going to send you off into some oblivion that you don't want to be in. All you need is your dictionary or dictionaries. You have your dictionaries, you see something that you don't know what it is, look it up. Don't go Googling something, because guarantee you, as soon as you Google a word that has to do with law, you're going to bump into some freedman and some dirty Moors and some other people who's you don't want to go study their stuff. So stick to the dictionaries if you want to know what stuff means and things like that, right? So oral statements of the Prophet, Noble Drew Ali. The Holy Prophet, Noble Drew Ali, told the Moors, I brought you everything it takes to save a nation. Now take it and save yourself. Right? He didn't say take it, sell it to people. He didn't say take it and, you know, brag and boast that you got it and they don't got it. He said take it and save yourself. I brought you everything it takes to save a nation. Now take it and save yourself. Why would you take what Noble Drew Ali brought to save a nation and save yourself? Because logically, we're nationals. So the only things that could save us are the things that are going to save a nation. If it's not about saving a nation, don't even waste your time. And nobody's brought you anything to save a nation other than the Prophet, but he doesn't get his props because dirty Moors want you to think that, you know, he was a circus magician and, you know, he was just this guy came, right? When he's a thought of Allah or thought of God or thought of Yahweh or thought of whatever you want to call the higher force, he's a thought of that. Came to give you everything that it takes to save a nation, and you're supposed to take it and save yourself. The Holy Prophet said, when the fire comes, I will be the water. When the fire comes, he will be the water. Why would Noble Drew Ali be the water when the fire comes? Because Noble Drew Ali brought us everything that it's going to take to save a nation, and it was going to be activated during the Aquarian Age, which is water, which is knowledge, which is study, study, study. Once we study, we'll know exactly what he meant, what he said, and we'll be able to Just like Misunderstandings book, we'll be able to use our common sense and know when somebody's trying to run game and when they're really sincere about what they have for you. Holy Prophet said, "What are all these people doing here? There are only going to be a handful saved. I can count them on my fingers and have fingers left over." The Holy Prophet said, "In the year 2000, the Moors will come into their own." Right, which is what we're doing right now, because Noble Drew Ali even knew that the Moors weren't going to come into their own before 2000, because statement before, what's all these people doing here? There's only going to be a handful saved and I'm going to have fingers left over. So obviously he didn't come for those people back then. That's why he said he came for the young and unborn generations, because that was that he was prophesizing that's going to come in with our eyes wide open, which is prophecy, because we came in with our eyes wide open, seeing and knowing, and we're carrying out the law that the Prophet laid down. When you see Moors, got nationality cards and they're standing up for birthrights and enforcing the Constitution and all that, then we're carrying out the law. Because the law isn't just what Noble Drew Ali said. Well, this is the general law. The law was everything that he brought. Everything was the law. Everything was the law. Because the law, and Noble Drew Ali is a thought of Allah. So the thought of Allah brought certain law that we had to follow and carry out. And when we took the position of we recognize Noble Drew Ali, we appreciate Noble Drew Ali, thank you Noble Drew Ali for everything, and praise Allah and all that, it's not no man worship. We're praising Allah for the Prophet because we studied what he brought, and what he brought is legit, and we're going to stand for that. We put our life on the line to stand up for birthrights and nationality, because that's how legit it is, right? And when we study, we'll know that it's that legit. That's the only way you're going to know, right? This for all the dirty Moors out there. The Holy Prophet said, "You tore up everything that was brought to you, but I brought you something that you can't tear up. It will tear you up." Prophecy fulfilling again. The Holy Prophet said, I'm going to repeat myself. Now, he's using Cujo now to repeat himself. He's using, when you go to Canaanlandmoors.com and you're reading all that stuff about Noble Drew Ali, what he said in your mind or whatever, he's repeating himself. So that's prophecy, manifesting, proving that Noble Drew Ali is who he is. Because prophecy is manifesting. Another one for the dirty Moors. The membership is going to dwindle down to a handful, but keep the doors open and I will drive the Asiatics in. Keep the doors open and I will drive the Asiatics in. When I drive the Asiatics in, it's going to take 10 secretaries just to write down the name. Right? It's going to take 10 secretaries to write down the names. Right? Why? Because these Moors never did their job, right? People are suffering, complaining about what these Europeans doing to them. And then they find out about Moorish nationality and birthrights, and they're getting on this ASAP. Trust me when I tell you that this is prophecy manifested right now. Because I guarantee you, when we go to the temple on Sunday, it's going to have 5, 6, 7, 15 messages on the phone from people from all over the country. Yeah, how you doing? Yeah, just calling because I saw your number online, and I'm trying to find a temple where I am, but I find the temples around here, and I'm trying to I really understand what Noble Drew Ali brought in. Those are the calls that we get, right? Because everybody's waking up to this. Like, it's that time right now, boys. It's that time right now. It's happening right now. The quickening. People are waking up fast. Don't worry about who's not waking up. No, people are waking up. Don't worry about, well, there's 50 people or 100 people or 1,000, 50,000 people in my area. It's just me. How am I going to do this? How, I thought we're supposed to have unity. Don't even worry about that. People are waking up. Your whole state is going to wake up eventually. Guaranteed. If Moors are doing what they're supposed to do in accord with what Noble Drew Ali brought. Right? Prophet said, children, one day you're going to love me. One day. Right? And we're at that stage right now. Because some of the Moors, they might have gotten a pint of freedom from Noble Drew Ali, and they give him honors to the high heavens. And they didn't even get any, they didn't right to travel yet. They didn't, they don't have Moorish passport to cross borders, nothing like that. All they had was a little experience. They asked somebody something at their work, they told them something, and they're blown away that, wow, this person knows. Right? This person knows about the Moors. Wow, Noble Drew Ali is a great man. I can't believe that I don't know. I can't believe I didn't know. Why do you know? Why you didn't know? It will take 50 years to find out what I brought you. And if you're not careful, 50 years after I'm gone, you wouldn't know that I have been here. And many of the new Moors could speak on that one alone. Right? Just that we're just finding out about Noble Drew Ali right now. 100 years later, we're finding out about Noble Drew Ali. That's a problem. Because everybody was told, everybody studied under him, but very few chose to uplift him and present what he brought to the people in the right perspective. Why? Because certain people wanted to be the man. Just like there's certain people in this jurisdiction of Canaanland who, bash Kudro, leave the temple or whatever, and then they're going to go all over the country, try get charters from all these other Moors who know Kudro is the Grand Governor of Canaanland and is the one that's going to give out charters to anybody in Canaanland. Right? So, Moors, it's 9:01 right now. I want to say Islam to all the Moors in the chat. Say Islam to all the Moors online that's watching. Islam to all the Moors that's been contacting Canaanland Moors to get your perspectives right. Islam to all the active Moors. Islam to all the real, true master teacher Moors out there that has been doing this, and they're seeing the fruits of their labor manifesting as well. Don't forget Moorish Heritage and History School Blog Talk, Eyes Wide Open. It's coming up at 9:30. If you got time, if you got questions, I'm going to be on there. Brother Mizraim is going to be on there. Sister Anita, Sister Raz, or whoever else decides to call in or whatever, because, open forum. So make sure you, call in, show support for active Moors that's been doing the work. Make sure you go to MoorisCivilLetter.net. Get Brother Abdullah Talib Mozi Bey's book, Moors and Masons. It's woo! Brother goes in. Make sure you get that. Make sure you go to rvbaypublications.com and get every book that they have on their website. Make sure you go to dralimbay.com and go get his book, First World Order. Make sure you go to Seven Seals Publications, Pleasant Bay, and go get his book, Exhuming of the Nation. Make sure you go get Jose Pimenta Bay's book. Make sure you contact Grand Governor Heru in Atlanta. Go get all his books, because he's got about 7-8 books or whatever like that. Right? And continue to show support to your prophet and to your movement, because he did come for you. He did come and bring everything for you to save yourself. Make sure you study what he brought, so you don't get lost and you don't end up on one of these plantations fronting like they're Moorish Science Temple of America. Remember that not everybody that has a sign is Moorish Science Temple of America. Remember that not everybody that has a fez on is your brother. Be careful, Moors. Know that active Moors and the Prophet and Allah have your back anytime. You just make the call and you're gonna get to talk to somebody, right? If you are anywhere, if you're anywhere in the world, right, and you're getting this, and you understand Noble Drew Ali, and you understand the history of the Moors, and you understand that you're not Negro, black, colored, or Ethiopian, that's 99% of the lesson. And the other 1% of the lesson is studying. Studying and studying, because what else are we going to do? So Islam Moors, we'll just close out with the prayer and get ourselves ready for some blog talk. And oh yeah, for Moors, if there's any Moors in Canaanland on the show right now, don't forget November 23rd, Canaanland Moors is going to be assisting the Feed the Hungry program. The Feed the Hungry program started a few years ago by one of the good brothers out here, Exodus Bay, and he's basically, you know, bringing the people together so we can take a little bit that we got, put it all together, and help out those people who have nothing. So Feed the Hungry program is, you know, straight up uplifting fallen humanity. So if you're interested in starting up Feed the Hungry where you're at, you don't need any permission or nothing like that. Set it up, go out there, help those less fortunate, and let's continue to be the example that Noble Drew Ali wanted the Moors to be. So we'll just close out with the prayer, and that would be it for today. 5 on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation by night and by day through His holy prophet, Noble Drew Ali. Islam, Islam, Islam. Peace and Hotep. Oh, and for the blog talk info, again, it's MHHS Eyes Wide Open. So just MHHS Eyes Wide Open blog talk. Google that, and then it should come up. And then the link that you're going to go on when you get on the blog talk is going to be the one dated November 12th. All right. Oh yeah. And today was First World Order, Ali Mel Bay. No cover right now, but oral statements and prophecies of Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Addressing misunderstandings of purpose concerning Sheikh Sharif Abdul Ali. Moorish Divine and National Movement Forced to Make Changes booklet, Nature El Bay and Taj Tariq Bay, and Black's Law Dictionary 4th edition. Islam Moors, peace and Hotep.